What's up, my homies? Welcome back. This is the Jason Stapleton program, broadcasting once again from sunny Southern California, here in the heart of progressivism. There'll be none of that here. Not today. Not while I'm in charge. With me, as always, is Matt. What's up, buddy?
Hello. Matt is here. Matt has been laughing. Jason is great entertainment.
I am. You know what? My mind tracks in. I got a lot. I'm trying to process, and when I lose my stuff, it makes me frustrated. So before the show started today, we'd set up the live streaming for people who are part of the membership, who are members of the show. And of course, if you want to do that, it's jasonstapletonprogram.com/members. For $5, gets you in the private Facebook group. It gets you the live stream of the video. And it gets you kind of a before show and sometimes an after show, depending on whether or not we hang around after the show to do anything. But basically, it gives you a little behind-the-scenes action. And so we got here, and I was getting all my stuff together, and we were watching the Gillette commercial, which we'll talk about in a minute, and kind of preparing for the show. And all of a sudden, I realized I didn't know where my cell phone was. And so I start looking around. It's not on the desk, and I look over. It's not there. I go out in the hallway, and it's not there in the conference area. I come back in. I'm like, Matt, I lost my cell phone. I don't know where it is. So Matt starts looking for it. Amy's wondering, so she comes in, and they're walking around. And then for any of you who don't know, I'm using I have found like the simplest way to stream anything. It's I use an app on my phone, and it automatically connects with a program I have on my computer. And we're able to stream the show live. Now, eventually what we're going to do is we'll build out an entire studio where we have multiple cameras, and it'll be cool. Right now, we just want to get something out for you guys to watch. And all of a sudden, Amy's like, Jason, it's right there, and it's on the tripod streaming the show. And none of us realized it, so of course I feel like an idiot. And rightly so.
We're all very busy. We have a lot on our minds.
You know what? Well, it is true, because we got a lot of stuff happening. And we are busy at work 25 hours a day. But I'm really glad to have you here today. And today we got a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, we've got the teachers union, which the strike that's going on here in California, and I'll talk briefly about that and just kind of share my thoughts. And then we've got this Gillette razor commercial, and I want to discuss, because it's people are outraged over this commercial, and Number one, I understand what it is. I understand why they did it. I think that it's a bad move for them as a product, but they got some really stupid marketing people working for them is the problem. And they are probably going to look at this as a really good thing. They seem to be excited at the response that they've been getting over their ad, because they're working from the premise that there is no such thing as bad advertising, or there's no such thing as bad press. And the fact that people are complaining about their commercial means that people are talking about their commercial and talking about their brand. They are wrong, and I want to talk to you about why as the show unfolds today. Then we got more troops killed in the Middle East and Syria. That is unfortunate. We really live in an amazing time. I mean, if you think about it, the amount of stuff Matt and I have been reading some of the same books, and in the Game Changer book, they talk a lot about nootropics, and it's a brain enhancing drug. It's those smart drugs that you hear about, and there are natural supplements that you can take, and then there's actual nootropics, which is a chemical that helps your brain function at a higher pace. And he and I have both been studying it and reading about it, and you talk about the type of brain hacking and body hacking and just the access to life-sustaining and life-improving drugs and knowledge. Not just the drugs themselves, but also the research that goes into knowing how to eat, knowing how your body reacts to certain things, knowing psychologically. He and I have talked about meditation on the show before, and things that we do in order to kind of keep ourselves centered and keep ourselves focused. And that type of stuff is something that 50 years ago, nobody really understood. So you leave the chemical stuff aside, unless you came from the Far East and you'd been studying it. Even then, you probably didn't really understand how it worked. You just knew it did work. Well, now not only do we understand that it does work, we understand why and how. And that is incredible, an incredible time to live in. And what I hate hearing from people is that, oh, this is too hard, or that's too hard, or things have changed. It's not as easy as it used to be to do that. Let me tell you something, guys. It is easier now to achieve a level of wealth, health, and happiness in your life than at any time in history.
Absolutely.
There is no excuses for you living a substandard life. And I have more evidence of that today. First steps in a family biotech vaccine against Alzheimer's. They actually have verifiable results proving that their Alzheimer vaccination decreases or increases cognitive function and decreases the risk of Alzheimer's disease. We may be coming to a point where we can fix brain defects that have plagued people for generations. I think about this. One of the things that I was talking about in the hallway with Amy and Matt is just, for me, you can keep yourself physically fit, and you can kind of keep yourself together, and you can actually extend your life through the drugs and through exercise and nutrition can extend your life and live healthily into your 90s, 100 years old. There are guys now who are living a healthy life. Used to be if you were 90 years old or even 80 years old, you typically were in a wheelchair or you're riding around in one of them scooters. And now, I mean, you got people who are playing golf into their 90s. I was taking a look at Bob Barker. I don't how old's Bob Barker? Look up how old he is. I just watched a documentary on a guy who beat The Price is Right. I don't know.
95.
He's 95. I don't know why I watched this documentary, but apparently it was about a guy who memorized all the prices of everything that was on The Price is Right. And he would go, because you have to get selected from the crowd. He went, and he did pretty well when he went on the show, but then he would just keep going back, and he would just sit in the audience and shout out the prices. And eventually people caught on, and they're like, dude, that guy knows the price of everything. And so he helped one of the contestants get a perfect score, like to the number, on the final showdown. So he added up the prices of all the stuff that was on there, and he bid it out, and he was to the number. And apparently everybody was like, that's a statistical impossibility. That should never, ever happen. And so it was a documentary about his life and how he...
was he like a memory expert?
What's that?
Was he like a memory expert?
No, he was just a statistician. He loved The Price is Right. It's one of those things, you know, there are people out there and they collect, for example, what's one of the things? So they collect Mickey Mouse memorabilia. And so you go into they're a normal person, and then you go into their basement and you're just like, this is creepy. He's just living a normal life, but he loves Mickey Mouse. And so his entire basement is just loaded with everything. And he can tell you everything about Mickey Mouse and everything about Disney. Just people are like that. And so he was, from a very early age, the guy who watched The Price is Right. And he and his brother got into it. He works in mathematics, and so he kind of keeps track of numbers and stats and things. It's the way his brain works. And so he just loved the show, and for decades he would watch the show. He would actually watch reruns of it, the way we might watch a rerun of Seinfeld. He would watch reruns of The Price is Right. And no, it's weird, but the guy's just a completely normal dude. And so I'm watching this guy. My point is, it doesn't have anything to do with this guy. The point is, in the documentary, Bob Barker is there, and the guy is 95 years old. He looks like death warmed over. Like, he looks like the crypt keeper, but just as sharp, just as clear as the day he got started. And that guy did martial arts. He kept himself in good shape his whole life. So physically, he's in pretty good shape at 95. Mentally, he's all there. But one of the things that you can't really fix, or it's difficult, and we're starting to learn how the brain works and how to prevent some of these things. But some of the stuff that you just can't fix is you can be in really good shape and really good health, and dementia hits you, and you're done. It's a fast track down. My grandfather, into his 80s, was playing golf every day, and it was everything was going well, and he was living a healthy life, and he was a healthy weight. Everything was good. And then he ended up getting Alzheimer's, like a really fast-acting Alzheimer's. And within a matter of just like 2 or 3 years, just went straight downhill. And they went from having this beautiful home on the golf course to being in a nursing home, because both of them got Alzheimer's, and now they're stuck. And you look at that, that's my biggest fear, because you can't plan for that. At least we don't understand enough about the way the brain works. to have preventative maintenance on that. There's some of the stuff they say, coconut oil and things like that will help, but having a vaccine that fixes your brain and prevents brain disease and brain degradation is incredible. We live in that time.
This has been my area of most interest right now, and this may turn into just my passion for life, is over the last 50 to 100 years, there's been a lot of different influences that have been introduced into human lives that have caused all kinds of different illnesses and diseases and whatever else because of new chemicals that we don't understand what they do, and diets going away from just natural food to weird fake food. And so in a sense, people from 100, 200 and further on years ago, they had things that made them healthier than us. And we have made ourselves sicker by introducing these different technologies. But then, at the same time, we have technologies and understanding of human biology and chemistry and everything now that they didn't have. So it's a matter of optimizing both of those. So how can we optimize the ancient knowledge and optimize current technology? And if we put those two things together, what's the potential of the human race? What could humanity accomplish? Like Dave Asprey in Game Changers, he says, with a straight face, he says his goal is to live to be 180 years old.
Yeah.
And that's the second or third time now that I've heard people that are in the biohacking technology industry talk about, my goal is to live to be 120, 150, 180, something like that. And at first I was kind of like, whatever. But then as I was thinking about it, I was like, we're reaching the point where we can start really getting down into the granular aspects of medicine and biology and technology and figure out the ways to optimize, to move this switch here, move that switch there, and optimize human performance and human biology to where, why couldn't we start figuring out how to live longer and longer?
Well, you look at 50 years ago, I can't remember what the life expectancy was, but it would have been 60 or 70 years ago now, but when you look at 60 years ago, life expectancy was, I think, probably 65, 70 years old.
Is that a median or is that an average?
A median, I think. I'm just what I remember about it was when Social Security came out, life expectancy was really up to 65. They only lived a few years after that. So essentially, you worked until you retired and then you died. Now people are 65, they're retiring, they got 20 years ahead of them, and they're now the big issue is, how do I save enough money to live the 20 years I intend to live without working? And there's still this expectation that, at 65 we're going to retire. And you and I talked about this before, but I don't understand how you could possibly do that. It'd be like putting yourself out to pasture. Maybe I'll feel different when I'm 70, but I hope not.
I think I would be bored.
I hope I'm spry and still out there fighting and enjoying life, and I still have goals I want to achieve out of my life. But I'm thinking about this. I wrote some ideas down because I'm working on a training called Explosive Productivity, and just kind of talking through the tools that I use and the processes that I go through to be as productive as I am. And I think it can be helpful to a lot of people. So I'm putting this training together. And I started writing the training, and then I got to thinking about something completely different. And I started reading some of the stuff that was going on in the world, and you guys need to ask yourself the question: what's your why? And I don't mean why do you do what you do, because this is the one we see. What's your why? Start with why. Why are you doing what you're doing? I mean, why do you exist? It's bigger than why are you trying to achieve this goal, or why are you trying to start this thing. Why do you exist? Why are you here? What is your purpose for being here? And then that why has to be bigger than an obligation. Because a lot of us end up saying things like, well, why are you here? I'm here to be a good father, or I'm here to be a good employee, or I'm here to, contribute to society.
Why?
Well, yeah, exactly.
You get that why train.
Why?
Well, I have this reason. Why? Mm-hmm. Well, I have this reason.
And
why?
There's actually, this is something that what is his name? It was Dan Sullivan talks about. It's 7 levels, the 7 levels deep. And it's just like, hey, why do you exist? Well, to be a good husband and a father. Okay, why? Well, so that they're provided for and that my family's taken care of. Okay, why? so that I can, and as you continue to go deeper and deeper into that, you start to get at what is the real purpose, what's the real reason why. And the real reason why is not an obligation. The real reason why is something deeply internal that encompasses both what your core identity is as a human being and what your micro motives are. So what drives you as a person, and that is always, always driven by something internal that you want for yourself, not something you do for other people. So I ask you guys, why do you exist? Why do you deserve increase in your life? Wherever it is. Maybe it's family, maybe it's friendships, maybe it's money, maybe it's health. Why do you deserve increase? Why do you deserve the life that you are fighting for? Let me tell you something, guys. If you don't believe that you deserve it, nobody else is going to believe it either. Why do you exist? And then once you figure that out, once you decide, and truthfully, just decide. Decide what you want. And decide why you want it, and then determine what the cost is and pay it. Okay? We talk about, when I look at life, one of the things that one of the things that I learned that was really, really powerful is that we are always in a constant state of transition. That it is never going to be the perfect time for anything. You are never going to have enough that it's okay to start this, or it's enough so that we can go do that. There's always a state of transition. You will never be there. I talked once about happily ever after, and how a lot of us have this idea of arrival somewhere at some point. And the fact is, you never arrive. You're always passing through. And there are going to be times in your life when you're on top of the world, and there are going to be other times that you are in the gutter. So again, if you are moving towards some sort of arrival, that is never going to be. What you can hope for is you can hope for a steady and consistent increase in your life. It doesn't mean you'll always increase. There are going to be setbacks, but you are constantly moving and increasing in different areas of your life. And to give you some idea of what I mean when I talk about this, you guys remember Chris Hansen, To Catch a Predator? Sit down. Okay, come in. No. Sit down. That was Chris Hansen. Now, Chris Hansen, very famous NBC TV personality. He, no doubt, makes plenty of money. Is he a published author? I think he might be a published author. Most people are. The former host of To Catch a Predator, was arrested Monday in Stamford for larceny. Cops say that he failed to pay a local vendor nearly $13,000 for stuff he purchased in 2017 and allegedly gave the guy the runaround and bounced 2 checks. According to Stamford PD, Chris bought 355 mugs, 288 T-shirts, and 650 vinyl decals from a mom-and-pop shop in town for marketing events he planned to attend. The owner says the goods were delivered, but Chris bailed on the $12,998 tab. The owner says after the first check bounced, he threatened to go to the cops. Chris allegedly offered to make 4 partial payments, but the owner rejected the deal. Chris then bounced a second check and begged for more time. The owner claims Chris sent an email saying he was selling his boat to come up with the cash, but a check, a good one, never came, and a warrant was issued for Chris's arrest. Guys, this is, look up what, I should have done this before the show, Chris Hansen's salary from To Catch a Predator. I'll bet it's in there.
The first thing that comes up is $2.5 million.
That's net worth, maybe?
Oh, yeah. That's his net worth.
Yeah, but I'm looking for what he made per year on the show. I would guess, based on what I know other anchors and show hosts are paid, it was somewhere around half to $750,000 a year.
$500,000.
$500,000. Okay, so he's making $500,000 a year as a To Catch a Predator guy. Now I know a lot of you sitting at home, that sounds like an incredible amount of money. And you're like, how could anybody ever not survive on $500,000 a year? And I can tell you guys, $500,000 a year is a decent amount of money. But it can go away. It can evaporate. And here's a guy who's making $500,000 a year for years. And he doesn't have $12,000, $13,000 to cover the cost of T-shirts and mugs for an event that he's hosting. The guy has fallen from grace. And you know what? It will happen to all of you at some point. I had a friend of mine, I won't mention his name. Well, you guys wouldn't know who he was anyway. But, well, no, some of you might know who he is. But I had a friend that I knew many years ago. Actually, I talked to him not long ago, maybe 6 months ago. And that's how I know how this story ends. But he was running a $125 million a year business. He had ramped, what he did was he was in the information marketing space, and he had partnered with another company and had ramped his company up so quick. And he was generating running a $100 million company, but his overhead was massive. Because in order to fulfill, they ramped so fast, he had to grow so fast, there wasn't the controls that are normally in place when you're growing a company of that scale. And he delivered a bunch of product. The money didn't flow through him, and they ended up cutting him off, and he was left holding the bag on millions and millions of dollars worth of product he had to deliver that he wasn't being paid for, and he didn't have the overhead he didn't have the capital to sustain his overhead. And he completely crashed. He just basically went bankrupt. And he was really struggling, and he called me up, and he said, hey, here's kind of what happened. It's been a terrible situation. This was years ago. Called me up and said, this has been terrible. And at that time, my business was clipping. We were I didn't know what to do with the money. And so we were sitting around, and he called me up, and he said, hey, listen, here's what's going on. I kind of fallen on hard times. And he said, do you basically want to buy into the business that I have? So I have this large email list. And do you want to buy into this and become a partner with me on this piece of the business? And I'll continue to work it, but essentially you would be an owner in it because that will help me out. And I remember telling him, I'm like, dude, I said, if you need money, I'll just give you money. I'll just give you some cash to get you over the hump. But I said, I don't need to be in your business. That doesn't align with what I'm doing. But I'm happy to do that. And he's like, I really want to do this. We kind of tried a partnership out, and it really didn't work. But anyway, I can't remember what we gave him. It was significant. I don't know, $20,000-$30,000, something like that. Just because, dude, at that point, when you're living that lifestyle and you have a mortgage and you got a lease and you got overhead in the business, dude, $20,000 might get you a month. $25,000 might be enough to get you a month, but that's all it is.
You've got all the same problems. You just got more zeros.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I always say your problems don't go away when you have more money. You just have more zeros. And so, yeah, you give him enough to get over the hump. Hey, this will buy you 30 days. You got to figure out what to do with it. And he was just, you could tell when you talked to him, he's just demoralized. The rock bottom. I remember he came to Kansas City, and I picked him up at the hotel, and I had a Starbucks with me, and I said, you want a cup of coffee? And he said, no, I'm good. And we started to drive, and he's like, I never thought I would be in a place where I was looking at a cup of Starbucks coffee for $3 and wondering whether I could afford it. And I tried my best to say to him, brother, it's all right. This is a moment in time. This too shall pass. You will get over this. You've had a setback, but you have everything that allowed you to build that company will allow you to build again. But it's so hard to see it when you're in it. It's so hard. And meanwhile, so fast forward to 6 months ago. So this was 3, 4, 5 years ago, something like that. Fast forward to 6 months ago, I just hit him up, said, hey, what's going on, man? And he said, he's apparently working. He's in a new industry now. He still does information marketing, but he's doing it with a new partner. And they did $5 million last year in revenue. $5 million. He does all the campaigns. He does all the marketing and promotion for this product. And it's a product that I'm surprised he even sells. I'm like, really? People buy that? And he's like, yeah, man, it was selling like hotcakes, $5 million worth. And it's a low ticket item. And I look at stuff like that. He's a guy who came through. He's a guy who came through the other side. So I say all of that to remind you of one simple thing. Wherever you are today, whether you are in the gutter or whether you are on top of the world, understand where you are is temporary. And whether you stay there is up to you. You can stay in the gutter if you want to, or you can lift yourself to the top of the mountain. And if you're on top of the mountain and you choose to rest on your laurels and on your past accomplishments, thinking that, oh, I've arrived, I'm here now, there's no chance I can be back down in the gutter, I submit to you, Chris Hansen, from To Catch a Predator. Nobody is immune from it. And that we can cite case after case after case of this happening.
The word that's really been in my mind lately is trajectory. So rather than a snapshot at a given point in time, what's your trajectory? Which direction are you headed? Mm-hmm. What's the differential between now and where you're going to be a month from now? What's that trend line look like? Is it trending down? Is it trending up? Is it flat? Because if it's flat, it's trending down. So you want to be trending up.
You and I have been talking about this. My good friend Leo Hamill from San Diego taught me something that has just been invaluable. One of the things, and this just shows you how much money you can make having absolutely no idea what you're doing. Because I was able to build a multi-million-dollar company online having pretty much no idea what I was doing. I just knew I knew how to trade. I knew how to teach people. I created this course, and then I kind of fumbled my way through. So we would create this product and then create that product, and that wouldn't work very well, so we'd try something different. And we just kind of stumbled our way into this company that was doing millions of dollars a year. And we measured nothing. Like the year before I left Trade Empowered, one of the things that I was talking with the team about was I said, we don't know where our leads come from. Like, we've been so good at putting content out and people being able to find us online, but we don't track any of it. We don't know how much sales came from this area rather than that area. We don't do any paid. I did no paid promotion, people. I ran a $2 million company and we didn't buy any advertising. I mean, it's ridiculous. We're looking around going, well, we should learn how to buy advertising. We should really, because imagine this is just money this is manna from heaven that's just falling in our laps right now. Maybe we ought to try and, promote ourselves a little bit. But our business evolved that way. We had lists and we emailed the lists and people liked what we did. We put out lots of free content on the web. We were easy to find if you were searching for currency traders. And our business just grew. And so one of the things that Leo taught me was how to measure. He said, here's what I do in my company. Leo owns a jewelry store, actually owns several different companies. And I want to bring Leo in here to talk about everything he's doing because the guy's just crazy awesome. But so he brought me, he came down and I was talking with him about what I was doing. And he started talking, he said, what's your growth rate? What are your, let me see your metrics. I said, I don't have metrics. He's like, how do you run a business without metrics? I said, I don't know, because I don't know what I'm doing.
It was like the conversation you had with Bridget Fedesi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, because I don't really know what I'm doing. And I'm just really good at influence. I'm really good. And this goes back to where my skill set lies. I am really good at influence. I am really good at sales. I am really good at promotion. Those are the things that I know how to do. Everything else, I can't do math. I can barely spell. I can't spell, can barely read. I'm terrible at anything that has to do with minutia. It just drives me crazy. I'm like, give me the big picture. You guys, somebody else can handle the minutia. I want to come up with the idea and then have other people figure out how to implement. I mean, we had a conversation out in the hallway today for 20 minutes, half an hour, I can't remember, with Amy while she's building out landing pages. I just want to tell her, build this funnel, and it just happens. And so right now we're going through the painstaking process of learning how that works so that the next time I can say, build this funnel, and she'll automatically know what I'm talking about. Because I'm not good at those things, and it's not a good use of my time to be in there doing that stuff. But what Leo taught me was he taught me how to measure. And so one of the things we're doing as we launch the new brand, and we've got Influencer Monthly coming out next month, is Matt and I are setting up to measure everything. And Matt, his talents lie in different areas than mine. He actually likes doing that stuff. And so we're talking about how we measure, and he's coming up with ideas about how we actually implement and putting spreadsheets together that are going to help us track.
Give me numbers and let me chase them.
Yeah, and I love that. We find hidden statistics are great because you can find hidden information in the numbers if you have the numbers to access. So anyway, where on earth were we going with all of that?
I have no idea. It's really interesting, though.
But anyway, so I just say, wherever you are at, whether you are in the gutter or you're on the mountain, you have to understand that it is always temporary. And if you ever want to move from where you are now, if you want increase in a piece of your life, it has to be proactive. Though I remember what I was going to say. The one really valuable thing that Leo said, if you condensed all the information he gave me down into one statement, was just like, if you're not growing, you're dying. He said, there's because somebody else is growing. He said, staying stable is not okay. He said, every month in my business, we look at every piece. He said he's got like 18 things that he looks at in his business. And every month I get a report that tells me whether we're up or down from the month before. And he said, if we're neutral or down, he's like, I'm having conversations with people to find out why. He said, I demand increase every single year. And he said, because of that, we have seen, I can't remember what he said. I'm going to say, and I don't know if this is correct. I know it's like 20% growth year over year since I've been in business. I mean, he just grows every year. And it shows. It shows in the way he runs his business. I actually did a secret shopper in his business. He asked me to go in, and I bought some jewelry, and it's amazing. He runs a very efficient business. His salespeople are very well trained. Everything is as good as it can be. And he'll probably say it could be better, but I'm saying it's top notch. And so it shows in the way his business runs and the efficiency of it. So anyway, where you are is not permanent. Whether you are up or down. And for those of you who are down, who are looking to try and dig yourself out, to pick yourself up out of the mud and start climbing, understand you are the one who makes that change. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody's going to hand it to you. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to get on your hands and knees sometimes and crawl.
I can't remember who the guy was that said this, but it was a quote I heard recently. It was an old guy who had some type of a disease, and someone asked him how he lives every day knowing that he's dying. And he said something to the effect of, what's funny is that you don't realize you are too. And he was talking to a young person who's totally healthy. But that's that type of mindset. Every day you're dying. Like from the moment that you're born, you're dying every single day until you die. So if you have that mindset, that doesn't have to be depressing. That can be encouraging. Like, hey, so that means let's get to it.
You know, it's funny. I have to read some ads, guys. So, but I'll give you this thought before we do. I was walking around today, getting ready to put my stuff together to go, and I remembered. I don't know why. I don't know what I was. I cannot for the life of me remember exactly what the issue was, but I remember waking up as if, like from a trance, and saying, "Dude, I'm almost 40 years old. Why do I care? I'm a grown man. Like I could do whatever I want to do." And it's funny. I wish I had, when I was 16, 20 years old, I would have realized that we all kind of hit this age. Some of us it's 13, but most of us in our mid-20s, where we kind of, our brain gets fully developed, and doesn't matter how much older we get, we all tend to view ourselves as, in terms of our place, as being this 20-year-old. And so we're overly concerned about what our mom thinks, and you see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, we don't want to talk to somebody who is we don't want to confront somebody who's older than us because, oh, he's 60 years old. You know, he's my senior. You know, I shouldn't be confronting him. Like, dude, I'm 40 years old. I always tell, I'm a grown ass man. I do it. If I want to eat my dessert, I will. I will eat my dessert before my dinner. I will eat a sleeve of Oreos in place of a meal if that's what I choose to do, because I'm a grown adult.
Like a wood chipper.
Yeah. And I wish I had realized in my 20s, you know what? 50-year-old guy, he's really just a 25-year-old in a 50-year-old's body. Because we all are, it's combating that is really important. And one of the things that you and I talked about earlier today was just the importance of self-reflection, of really knowing who you are and being able to, warts and all, be honest with yourself and just say, look, here are the things that I am not perfect at. And it's not like, oh, I wish I cared less. No. That's you lying to yourself. Well, really, like, these are the things that I am deficient in. These are my personality deficiencies. These are the things like, for example, I'm not going to remember your name if you tell it to me. I'm not. I'm going to tell you right now, I went all the way through high school seeing people every single day and never knew their names. And it got better when I was in the Marines because the group I was with was so small. But you come up and introduce yourself to me, I'm not going to remember your name. I'm terrible about it. It is a very serious personality deficiency. Now, I will remember your face, but I may see you 4, 5, 6 times, and I may still not know your name. And it's not because I don't care. It's that's a serious flaw. It's in somewhere in my brain housing group. Those connections. When you say my name is Larry Jones, that doesn't fire. It just doesn't. It's like okay.
Flatline.
What is the reason? What is the purpose of our communication? That's what I'm focused on, not on your name. And I have tried 15 different techniques, saying their name 7 times, looking them in the eye, name association. I just suck at it. And people look at that and they say, well, he's so arrogant, or he thinks he's such a big deal. He can't remember people's names. It's like, no, listen, I have really tried. I have a breakdown there somewhere, and no matter what I have tried to do, I can't figure out how to fix that.
And you have nothing to gain then by not being honest with yourself about that.
Correct.
If you're not honest with yourself, it's like what I was saying before we started recording about Naval Ravikant. He says to always be honest, and the reason for that is that when you're not honest, you create a second track of reality that your brain has to follow. So then your brain is now following what's actual reality, and they're following this artificial reality that you created, and it's doing both of those. So you're going to start to overtask your brain.
Yeah.
So by being completely honest with yourself about your flaws, about your defects, you're embracing them, and that's the only way that you're ever going to do anything about them. Because not being honest about them isn't going to make them go away.
Right.
It's going to be there, except now you're going to be compounding the problem by adding additional defects on top of it.
Correct. Yeah. So anyway, enough about that. Let me tell you about our sponsors today. All right. Guys, Policy Genius. Getting life insurance is one of the most intimidating parts of being a full-fledged adult. There are so many options, it's hard to know where to start. That's where Policy Genius comes in. They make it super easy to compare quotes, get advice, get covered with no extra fees or commissioned sales reps, so you don't even have to talk to somebody selling you something. Policy Genius is the easy way to get life insurance. In minutes, you can compare quotes from top insurers and find the coverage you need at the price you can afford. From there, you can apply online. And the advisors at Policy Genius will handle all the red tape. It's great. If you've been intimidated or frustrated by insurance in the past, try starting your search at policygenius.com. In minutes, you can compare quotes and apply. You can do the whole thing on your phone right now. Policy Genius, the easy way to compare and buy life insurance. And last but not least, certainly not least, is Skillshare. We're talking about getting on top and staying on top. Well, certainly that involves increasing your human capital, that store of knowledge and resources that gives you value to the marketplace. And Skillshare is the place for you to learn it with over 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. You got stuff on social media marketing, mobile photography, creative writing, even illustration. Whether you're looking to discover a new passion, start a side hustle, or gain a new professional skill, Skillshare will keep you learning, thriving, and reaching for your new goals. And right now, this is the best part. You can join millions of students already learning. Get 2 months of Skillshare for free. That's right. Skillshare is offering my listeners access to over 25,000 classes for free. Sign up at Skillshare.com/Stapleton. Again, Skillshare.com/Stapleton to start your 2 months now. That's Skillshare.com/Stapleton. I really love that company. Quality classes. You can't beat free. Every single one of you should go and support Skillshare because they're doing something for you that not many companies will do. And here's the best part. The fact that they're giving it to you for free and they're paying the outrageous fees that it costs to advertise on this show tells me something. It tells me they believe in their product, and it tells me their retention rate is high. So if you guys are interested, go there now because the quality of the classes is high. People are rolling over and buying subscriptions because if they weren't, they wouldn't be advertising. So go over there and check them out, Skillshare.com, and get yourself some information.
The type of stuff that you can do online now that you can learn through Skillshare, you could learn a skill in just a couple of months and you could start freelancing with that skill, whether it's photo design or web design or copywriting or whatever it is. And you could probably, if you put your mind to it, within a year, you could be making your current salary freelancing.
Well, no,
it's so easy now.
I look at anybody who's making, say, less, $50,000 a year or less, and I go, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but you could freelance this and make at least what you're making now and not have a job and not have to go to work and not have all the other headaches and hang-ups that come with having to go and work for somebody else. You also get tax deductions and all kinds of stuff that make it probably more financially beneficial for you to do it that way too. But in terms of buying information online, I did a video. You should, if you're not a member of my fan page on Facebook, you really should go and check it out. It's Facebook.com/Jason Stapleton fan, I think is the fan page. And I've been posting some pretty regular content on there, just thoughts and things. I'm going to do another one today that'll come out tomorrow. That the two things that you need to do to make more money and to make more sales, to sell more stuff, I think is what we're going to put out tomorrow. And one of the things that I talked about in one of the last videos I did was about a guy named Ryan Dice. Ryan Dice owns a company called Digital Marketer, and I was working in Iraq, and I wanted to start my trading education company, and I didn't really know how you build an online company. And so I didn't know at that time whether I was going to start a hedge fund. At that time, I really wanted to start a hedge fund, but I thought this would be an easy way to get into it was I'll put a website together and I'll start marketing my website. But I didn't know how to do any of that. And so my friend said, well, you should go buy this course from Ryan Dice. And I go, what do you mean? He's like, well, it's a course. It'll teach you how to get people to come and sign up for your stuff. And at that time, it was very rudimentary. Because Ryan was coming out of, well, he'd been out of college for a few years, but they'd started this company, and this was all new. This internet marketing stuff was really new, and nobody really understood it. And he had what was called the napkin funnel building blueprint or something like that, and the whole story behind it. He had a really interesting story about they were sitting there and they were trying to figure something out, and they were at the bar late at night. They've had a couple of drinks. And they get the cocktail napkin out and they draw this funnel, this concept of putting people in the top of the funnel and then, putting them through a system. And he said, we put this together and now I want to teach you how to do it. And I watched the video about it and I talked with my buddy and I'm like, really? Do you buy crap like this? This guy he's going to help me make millions of dollars. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure he is. I think this looks like a scam. And he's like, no, man, I followed him for a long time. I buy this stuff all the time. He's like, I love information and I spend money on it. He said, go and buy it. And I think it was $1,000. It might have been $2,000. I don't remember what it was now, but I said, okay, I'll spend the money on it, but screw you in advance. And I dropped the money. And I got to tell you, it was funny because years later, I wanted to get into his mastermind group. And I was filling out the form, and the mastermind group was like $35,000 a year, but it was invitation only. So not only did you have to have the money to pay for it, but you also had to be invited. So they had you fill out this long thing, and I didn't realize at the time that the form and all the stuff they made you go through was just a hoop, in that they would take you if you had the money. But I wanted a little extra so I went to the stage at Traffic and Conversion Summit. Now, this was not when Traffic and Conversion had 6,000 people. This was when it had 800 people, and it was brand new. And I just shook his hand, and I said, hey, I just want to let you know that you've helped me make about $3 million in the last couple of years. And he goes, what, really? And he jumped down off the stage, and we had a conversation. I told him about, hey, I bought this course from you in 2008. And what I learned from you helped me make $700,000 my first year in business. And you take a look at value proposition and you say, what should you be charging? Well, I couldn't have possibly ever paid the amount of money that course was worth. That course was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to me, more money than I had. But if I had had the money and I had known what I could do with it, it would have been worth $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 to buy that course. And so the idea that it was $1,000 or $2,000 just is ridiculous. And so I try and impart on people the value of knowledge, the value of information, and what we have at our disposal. We started out this show talking about how easy it is to live, have more health, more wealth, and more prosperity in your life, health, wealth, and happiness in your life. Guys, it is. Because all of that information is on your cell phone. Everything you need to build whatever kind of life you want to build is out there, and there are people who will sell it to you cheap. I mean, the $1,000 that I spent on that course, like $1,000. People think, man, that's, I mean, I couldn't afford that. I have to max out my credit card to do that. It's cheap if you implement and you do what they say. Problem is, most people don't implement. Most people equate buying the thing with accomplishing something. They ran the credit card through, so they did something. No. You got to actually do the work. Watching somebody else do it, learning the information, and never implementing is not valuable to you or anybody else. But if you implement, even if you implement a portion of it, man, maybe, what if I had only done half as much? Maybe I've only been half as successful after taking his course. I mean, the very first product I put out, I will say this to you again because I want to reiterate the value of information, is that the very first product I put out, and I've told this story to you before, it was a $249 subscription program. And I said, I will send you every trade. I wanted to run a hedge fund, and I thought, I'll just send, I can't afford to do that right now, but what I can do is I can just send people all my trades and they can trade off of them and see how great I am. And so it's $249 a month. I'll send you every trade. I got 10 people to sign up. That's $2,500. Already, just off that first deal, I doubled what I invested in the course. That's what I actually built after I took Ryan's course. Was I built a $249 subscription program, ran him through the little funnel that he taught me how to build, and 10 people fell out the bottom at $249 a month, and instantly had a $30,000 a year business. It took at least 15 minutes a day to run, at least. And it would never have happened. The life that I have, talking to you behind this microphone now, would never have happened. When I decided I was going to start this podcast, guess where I went? John Lee Dumas. You guys know who he is if you're a podcaster. I already knew how to build online businesses. I had all the money in the world. I built a $100,000 studio just because screw you, I can do it. Right? That's where I was at in my life. But I recognized, hey, I'm going into a different industry. There might be nuances about podcasting that are different than the ones in digital marketing, in the ones in information marketing. I want to go find out what one of the biggest names in podcasting is doing and how he built his podcast. So I went and spent the $1,000 or whatever it was to buy John's course. You're
spending $1,000 to get the knowledge that comes from the experience of one of the most accomplished people in that field. That the idea that people would look down on that is crazy. That value is incredible.
This show generated nearly $250,000 a year in advertising revenue last year. $250,000. Just to let you guys know, advertising accounted for $250,000 in sales last year. I spent $1,000 on his course. Okay? This is what I'm telling you. The ROI on some of this stuff is unreal. Unreal. It's stupid that people even give a second thought to spending the money. But until you've seen it work, it's really difficult. But you guys got to get out there and you got to hustle and you got to be willing to take some risks and take some chances. And the great thing is, guys, money's replaceable. Time's not replaceable, but money is. You can just go get some more of it if you need some more.
So when you buy a product like that, you're buying time. Because rather than you having to spend your time going and figuring all this stuff out, you're buying the time that someone else put into figuring it out.
Well, what have I always said? Your reality is framed by two things: your education and your experiences. So if you don't have an experience of learning how to do something, you can shortcut that by harnessing someone else's experience and someone else's knowledge and skill. Anytime I want to start something new, the very first thing I do is go look at people who are already successful doing it, and who are generous enough to put together training for me that I can buy. I mean, God bless them. Where would I be today had I not invested in that stuff? I mean, yeah, I probably could have got my podcast going, but it was $1,000 investment. He laid it out for me, everything I needed to do, all the steps I needed to take, the different ways that he marketed the show.
And what would have been the opportunity cost of having to figure it out on your own?
Having to figure out on your own, yeah, rather than shortcutting the process. I don't know. But what I can tell you is I dropped $1,000, and in the last 2 years, $500,000 in revenue just from doing this show. So these are the things I want you all thinking about when it comes time to invest in your human capital. There's more money out there than you can possibly understand. And if you are slaving away 50, 60 hours a week for 60, 80 grand, you guys are doing it wrong. I'm sorry, you're doing work wrong. Because most important, number one, you shouldn't have to work that many hours to make so little money. And number two, you ought to be doing something that you love doing. See, if you're comfortable, if you're like, hey, dude, I make 60 grand a year. I love what I do. All I want to do is go hunting in the morning, and I make enough to pay my bills, and I'm happy. Then you're already living the life that you're supposed to live. But if you're making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and you are dying at the job that you're at, and you're slaving away, hoping that something doesn't break on the car, dude, you're doing work wrong. Work is supposed to be enjoyable and it's supposed to be lucrative. And you got to find a better way. And what I say is, start opening up your mind to that opportunity meter. Start looking for it, because there's opportunities for you to grow, to learn, to improve, to change your life, to live a more rewarding and prosperous life. Think about it like this. Let's say, look, you don't want to be one of these guys that slaves away 80 hours a week at a company and he doesn't ever get to see his family, and you don't want to become one of those entrepreneurs that isn't ever around and can't ever see his kids because he's busy slaving away. Man, dude, then build yourself a business that makes you $200,000 a year, $300,000 a year, that you only got to work, say 20 hours a week on. You can do it. Once you build the thing up, it's easy. Just turn it on, hire a couple of people. You can make yourself a cool $250,000.
Figure out a way to sell your output rather than your input. If you're selling your input, that's limited to the amount of time that you can put into it. But if you figure out a way to use technology is leverage. If you figure out a way to leverage some form of technology, and I mean, the frickin' internet is the craziest amount of leverage we've ever seen. Leverage a way to create a return on your output, and then you can put in all the work on the front end, and the output can be exponential on the back end.
No, you're absolutely right. So I belabored this enough. The show is now coming to an end. But at the beginning, I asked you guys to tell me what your why is. Not your why for doing or wanting to achieve this goal or that goal. Why do you exist? Once you figure that out, well, then you can figure out why you want to do A or B and what your passion is for achieving the next level. And, it's different for everybody. But at its core, you are looking for fulfillment in your own life. And you've got to figure out what fulfills you as a human being. And then you've got to pursue only activities that move you both closer to that fulfillment, and number two, are within your wheelhouse of expertise and what you can do. You know what I'm saying? So my goal might be to constantly test my own limits and to build a $10 million company. I'm not going to do that by working on statistics. I'm going to work on it in the areas that allow me to do that and have that kind of growth. So sit down and ask yourself some reasons. I had a question in the group about how do you find what your niche should be? Like, how do you decide what it is you want to do? And yeah, there's processes that we can work through, and I can talk you through with that. And maybe that's a good webinar to take people into. Just bring them in and say, hey, we're going to start talking about what you want to do with your life, and I'm going to take you through some exercises that will help you understand better what you are destined and supposed to be doing. But that's something that only you can learn and something only you can do. And it starts with being honest with yourself, like we talked about. Not trying to pretend to be something that you're not and somebody that you're not. Because that, not only does that screw with your brain, but it's counterproductive to you achieving what you want in your life.
If you're honest with yourself, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. We'll leave it with that, guys. Until Friday, be safe, be good. We'll talk to you then.